when you're the parent and your child's going through the college process, they need a coach. They need a mentor. They need somebody who's going to stand by them and help them see the pros and cons a little bit because they've never been to school. In many cases, you as a parent have and or had experiences with some of these schools and can speak from experience. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the Prairie Fire Podcast. So happy to have you here today. September is College Savings Month. I assume that means that we should all be thinking about saving more money for college. As I was reflecting on this topic, it's one that's very personal to us and one that I have strong opinions about. So today we're going to talk about 3 of the tips that I learned as a parent that was saving for college over the years, as well as then putting 4 kids through school. So we're going to share those experiences, talk a little bit about some of the lessons that we learned, and hopefully give you some tips along the way here to say, I'm saving for college, but is that the right thing to do? Am I saving the right amount? What are the parameters when it comes to college savings? So let's knock the veil down a little bit. What do you say as far as college savings goes? And is it the right thing for my family? How much should I be saving? And what are some good tips to be thinking about? So here we go. All right. So these are going to be tips from a parent who's been there. And like I said, I've put 4 kids through school. Lisa and I have a blended family. So we had 2 kids that went to the University of Iowa, and we had 2 kids that went to the Iowa State University. So in terms of football and athletics, we have a house divided. We just had recently an Iowa State football game. It went the way of the Cyclones this year. And so half of our home was pleased and half of our home was not. And so it really only happens once a year. We don't worry too much about basketball and the other sports a whole lot. But nonetheless, that's how it went down. When we think about saving for college, as I was planning our journey for our 4 kids, we were thinking, let's consider what the cost would be for the public universities. So in Iowa, that's University of Northern Iowa, Iowa State University, and the University of Iowa. And my thinking was, well, that'll be the most reasonable and most affordable schools that are in the state. And as a result, if I can save enough for those, then the kids could cover any additional monies if they wanted to go somewhere, let's call it special, or somewhere that was going to cost more for a specific program or whatever the case was. So as we began our journey, that was the framework that we laid out for our kids and for ourselves in our minds, that this is going to be the best approach to doing that. And so we saved with those numbers in mind. It's very readily available on all of the college websites, what their net price calculator is or how much you think they're going to cost. So that was the route we went and the amount that I tried to save. I did that in a number of different ways through income, of course, and socking money into 529 college savings plans. We did a little bit of stock investing as well to get ready for that, thinking that some of that additional growth would come in handy. All of those things combined to get to what the bogey that I thought we were gonna reach. And so the first tip I want to talk about is saving underneath the bogey. When you hear college planners and or people that say that are proponents of saving a lot for college, you may hear them say, well, if you're going to be spending $150,000 on college, you should be saving that so you're not threatening your retirement, threatening your income, those kind of things. What we found is you want to save below what you think it's going to cost. There's a few reasons for that. First, if you're putting the money inside of a 529 savings plan and they don't use it for school, while there are new things that you can do with those balances. And we recently did a podcast, or when it's going to be released here, on 529 leftovers. So if you have extra money in your 529 plan, there are options that weren't available before, and they weren't available when we were saving. But when I say save under the bogey, let's say for your family, $100,000 is what you expect to spend on school. Well, a few things are going to happen when your child's in school. For one, you're not feeding them every weekend. You are not taking them to activities. You are spending both less time and less money on them because they are not in your purview like they were. So what you're spending the money on is school, of course. But what I'm saying is your monthly income could increase. In addition, if you're socking away $100 to $1,000 to more dollars every month away for school, for college, you're probably not going to be doing that either as much or as frequently now that they're actually in school. So you're going to have income options that can support the college bogey in addition to just the 529 plans. So when I talk about saving under the bogey, I'm talking primarily about saving beneath or saving below what the expected number is all into a 529 plan. You want to leave some money either outside of that and or give yourself some room for your income to support that. Because once again, if you oversave, I have met a few parents over time that had a large amount left in 529 plans when the child received a full ride scholarship or something along those lines. There are a lot of options. There's grad school. You can use the money for your grandchildren. You can use it for your own education. And now under Secure Act 2.0, you can use some of that money for Roth IRAs for the kids. So it's not the end of the world. But as I was thinking about it, I was worried, boy, if I don't get to this number, I'm not going to be able to afford it. Well, it's just not the case. So once you figure out what it's going to cost, spend a little bit of time figuring out, is that exactly what I'm going to need to save, or can I go a little bit underneath that? One of the things that we do, and if you're on YouTube, you can see our screen share here, but one of the things that we do is a pre-approval number that we set up for our clients. And all that is saying is what we've found based on what you've saved that your family could afford for a 4-year education. From there, then we break it down into different schools and all that. But that number comes from income, assets, the students' income and assets, and then we plug in things like ACT scores and GPAs, majors that they're planning to pursue, all of those, and that then give us a pre-approval number. So I've got a hypothetical customer in here, Jerry and Eileen, and they have a son named Kramer. Those of you that are from my era might recognize those names. So in this case, $28,500 was their first year college budget. So by knowing that number, once again, you're not going to oversave from your bogey. You're not going to be in a position where you're like, I think they might go here or they might go there. What you're determining is what your family can actually afford, which is much more important than where you think they're actually going to go to school, because that's a conversation that you can then have, and that's going to be part of our third tip here. So as you're digging into the numbers, figuring out how much you need to save, plan for a little bit less, because income and other areas are going to be able to support that. All right, second tip then is I want you to challenge the 4-year university mindset. And I tell you this because I didn't do it. This is a huge mistake that I made, I feel, in helping my kids plan for school. We targeted the state universities, said this is going to be our least expensive option. This is the way we're going to go. Kids, if you go in-state and you go to one of the 3 schools, we'll pay for it. If it costs more, if you go somewhere else and it costs more, you'll have to cover the difference. Obviously, this was attractive to the children then to go to those schools. What we did by doing that is excluded a number of wonderful schools that would have been a great alternative for my children, based on their high school experience, based on their personalities, based on some of the majors that they were thinking about pursuing, all of that. We left a world very much untapped by just pursuing the 4-year university mindset. So parents that are out there, I want you to be thinking about a few things. What type of experience are they going to have as an undergraduate? Because these universities all cater to different types of experiences. The big universities like the University of Iowa, it's more of a you're on your own, find your own way, will help you as needed, but it's going to be a very self-service, very large, very agnostic environment that they're going to be educated in. If the kid's okay with that and you think the kid's going to be independent enough to handle that, great. That's an alternative. But the big university, like the University of Iowa, is focused on research. They're not focused on undergraduate education. I'm not saying they do a poor job. I'm just saying it's not their focus. It's almost like if you're hiring a financial advisor, you want to know what their focus is. Where do they spend their time? Where do they specialize in? Or a doctor. You don't want to go, I'm about to have surgery on my foot, and I don't want to go to a cardiologist to get that done. I want to go to a foot guy that knows how to deal with, dealing with my foot and the challenges there. So I say all that because colleges and universities are the same. They have things that they specialize in areas where they're really, really strong. And so for undergraduate education, for people that want a specialized environment, there are a number of amazing small colleges throughout the college landscape that will give your child a much more meaningful experience if that's what they're looking for. So don't get stuck in just because I think this might be a little bit less expensive. It's the way that we're going to go. I'm going to flip back to that screen that we were talking about earlier. And if you look at the bottom, what we've done is identify a few different colleges like Grinnell here in Iowa and Luther College and the University of Iowa. What I want you to take a look at is the estimated first-year net costs. So for those of you on the podcast, what we're looking at is they have a cost of attendance, all of these schools, which is what I call their sticker price. You go to a car dealership, there's a sticker, but as we all know, in many cases, you're not going to pay that when you actually buy the car. So in some of these private schools, boy, you see the cost of admission, and you're like, forget it. I'm not going to touch that. It's way, way too expensive. And so let's take a look at someone like Luther, which is in Decorah, Iowa. Their cost of attendance is listed at $68,000. The price that goes into that is room and board, travel, books, everything. So not just tuition. That's tuition plus all the extras. And many of those numbers are estimates. University of Iowa, that same cost of attendance is $29,000. So pretty much a third of what's expected. However, when you dig into this school and you take a look at a school like Luther, and if you've got a good student and they're from whether in-state or out-of-state, have done pretty well on their ACTs, they're going to get a $32,000 scholarship right off the bat. They're going to apply for at Luther. These universities and these colleges want these kids. If you have a good student and you're a relatively affluent household, you're going to have options at these schools. They're going to want you. They're going to want your kid, and they're going to pay for that. And so this sticker price is frankly a joke, and what I think is one of the huge black boxes in the university shopping experience. You see what it costs, you immediately think it's not going to work for me, and you go on from there. That's what I did, and that's what I'm really encouraging parents not to do, is expand your options. So for basically about $8,000 more, and that could be trimmed in a lot of different ways, additional scholarships, other merit-based aid that Luther might be offering, and your child could have a very good undergraduate education in a smaller environment for relatively a little bit more, but relatively the same cost. And so something just to think about as you're analyzing, as I look at my 4 kids, they were all very different. They were all wanted very different things from school. One of the kids was very focused on purely becoming a CPA. He got a master's in that. Iowa State University worked out great for that whole program and his whole process in doing that. I look at my eldest son, and I feel like a smaller environment would have done him a lot of good, that he would have been able to thrive a little bit better in something that was a little bit more hands-on, gave him a little bit more attention early on, helped him, mature and get used to the academic experience, because it's very different from high school, as we all know. So the lesson here then is to challenge that 4-year university mindset. One of the biggest lessons I learned in all this is that it is a huge world and it is a buyer's market. These universities and colleges want your kid, especially if they're good students. Looks like they're going to be on a 4-year path, that they are going to, advertise and potentially get donations from their alumni parents, their alumni grandparents, all of those things, and they will pay to do that. And another little known fact is that you can appeal these financial aid awards. So if you went to, for instance, Luther and said, well, University of Iowa is offering this scholarship, and I also applied to Grinnell College, and they're offering comparable that's actually going to make their university less expensive or their college less expensive than yours. In some cases, they will say, we'll match it or we'll do better, because they're going to want your kid. As inflation has peaked up, as the economy begins to soften, as we move through a period of recessions in the next number of years, whatever the case may be, this is going to be even more the case. Going into COVID, we did a lot of research on college health, and boy, a lot of them were barely hanging on before COVID. These universities and these colleges, in many cases, have to have a number of freshman students every year to make it. And if they don't meet those numbers, there's layoffs, there's programs that get shut down, consolidation, eventually universities and colleges closing and or merging with other schools. Our office right here is in the American Institute of Business former campus. They went under, didn't make it. It was a 2-year school. Ended up selling a lot of the properties to University of Iowa. University of Iowa moves in here, rewires it, fixes up the building, decides it's not going to be amenable for them either, and now it's an office building. So it happens that you apply for, you're part of you think you're going to go to a certain school and they get consolidated. So also when you're checking into the universities and doing your shopping, remember that you can appeal, but also remember to look under the hood a little bit. Is this university got a good endowment? Do they have a good growth trajectory? Do the enrollment numbers appear to be holding up? Because again, the freshman students that they bring in are their lifeblood. And in the end, this is a business. They're not for profit in many cases, but they are a business and they need to meet their numbers to make it go. So yeah, challenge that mindset. We talk a lot about changing mindsets inside of Prairie Fire, getting rid of the old, making room for new growth. This is an area that I really challenge parents to be thinking about. Is the 4-year university the right thing for my kid? If it is, great. go for it. Many kids have a wonderful experience. My daughter did great at the University of Iowa. Had a good experience, got a sorority, made a lot of friends, has moved to Chicago with many of those contacts that she made at the University of Iowa. On and on it goes. So I'm by no means debunking that there are good schools for your kid. Take a look at if it's the right thing or not, because financially you might be able to make it work, even though it seems on the cover that you might not. Okay, off my soapbox. All right. Third thing then, and third tip is to include students in the money game. They need to know how much the school is going to cost. They need to know what you're planning to pay. They need to know what they're going to be responsible for. And they need to know if it's going to fit for your family. When I showed you the pre-approval number at $28,000 for Jerry and Elaine, what am I? It's like I've forgotten Seinfeld. I'm 57 years old and I'm losing my mind. I'm becoming like Kramer. Anyway, I digress. When you know what your pre-approval number is, it's easier to go to your child and say, this is what we can afford as a family. I know you want to go to this reach school. I know you want to do X, Y, or Z. This may make them understand that that's not in the cards for your family, or that we could dial in something even better than what they expected, or maybe a community college to start with to get our general education done, and then off we go to that dream school or whatever is on their mind. I read a lot of books that say the parents should drive the discussion. I feel like when you're the parent and your child's going through the college process, they need a coach. They need a mentor. They need somebody who's going to stand by them and help them see the pros and cons a little bit, because they've never been to school. In many cases, you as a parent have and or had experiences with some of these schools and can speak from experience. I went to the University of Northern Iowa. My first year, however, I went to Oral Roberts University in hopes of playing tennis. And so got down there. It was a very strict school and went through a lot of just emotional challenges being away from home. Didn't make the tennis team. Ended up transferring back to UNI. I lost a lot of hours in the whole process. So I did learn a lot. And I'll give my parents credit. They gave me room to move and all of that. But if they pointed out a few things like you'll have a better chance of playing tennis at UNI, you're going to have a lot more friends. You could then transfer to Iowa or transfer somewhere else if you don't think it's going to fit. Versus the kind of reach school, get out of Dodge, which again, learned a lot from, but having a little bit of feedback along the way might have been helpful. So as your student is going through and they say, I absolutely want to go to Northwestern, and it looks like maybe they can even get in, but it's going to be $70,000, $80,000 a year, and that just doesn't fit for your family. Talk through what some of the other options may be, because in many cases when they come out of these schools, the return on investment, the type of career that they can have, can still be very, very strong. And it opens up things they can do in grad school if they want to pursue things further. Maybe undergraduate, just get it done, get in a spot where you can then move on to the graduate school of your choice or the law school, whatever that case is. But don't blow the whole kit and caboodle on undergrad when that may not be the ultimate destination. The other thing is this: your kid's going to change their mind. And once again, I don't say this blanket that every kid's going to change their mind. Of my 4 children, 3 of the 4 changed their majors at least once, a couple of them more than once. Once they go in for a general idea of what they want to do, how it's going to work, they're going to start taking classes and realize what they do and don't like. You don't know that stuff till you get in there, till you start taking the classes, learning the things. And so just assume that I'm going to be a business major, this school is the best for that, maybe. But along the way, things may change. You want to give yourself some room for flexibility. This isn't something the student may understand without having gone through it. We're also dealing with the teenage brain. And so I'm no neurologist, but I saw my children and the volatility of their said brains over the number of years that they were both teenagers and young adults. And I occasionally see it now. So just be brave in those conversations. But again, be a partner in the journey. If you dictate terms, as we all know, that doesn't usually go over very well for anyone in their life. But if they feel like you're alongside with them, going to the college visits, saying this school looks like a better fit for these reasons, encouraging them to ask questions when they're at the universities, think of the things that they want to talk about before they get there. They're going to find you annoying in bringing these things up beforehand, but it does help them understanding, because they'll ask the question that you say, they'll hear it from another kid, and then they'll believe it. They may not believe it if it comes from you. So engaging them in the process, being a coach and a mentor, involving them in the money conversation is absolutely something that you should do. Once again, a lot of people say you should direct the process. You should be the boss of it. Maybe. Depends on the kid. But a lot of cases, being a partner with them will make them feel really good about the decision. They'll go into college with a lot of confidence. And those first few months can be tough for kids. They're leaving the nest just like you're dealing with an empty nest, and it's scary and it can be challenging. And if they get in an environment where they can't handle it, that once again could be a costly mistake for your family, having to then regroup and resend. So, all right. So those are my 3 tips. It's saving less than the bogey, putting yourself in a position where you can save a little bit less than what's projected for lots of different reasons. The open your mindset to outside of just the 4-year university mindset only that we lived in and survived through fine, but learned a lot of lessons from. And then including your students in the money game, I think, is an important one so that they feel like they're part of the journey. They understand what the financial framework is, because from this point forward, they're going to be dealing with financial affairs in their own lives as well. And understanding what a budget looks like and what it works for a big expense like college is time well spent. So thank you for joining us here today on the Prairie Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for supporting us. Please subscribe. If you enjoy our content, you'll be notified when we have new podcasts come out. All of our episodes are also on YouTube. If you want to check us out there under Prairie Fire Wealth Planning at YouTube. And then if you'd like a free copy of our book, Empty Nest Full Pockets, it's got a lot more information about our college journey, the ways that we saved for school, the ways that we paid for it, more detail on the pre-approval process, all of those things. And you can also opt into our email list at info@pfwplanning.com, where we put out a lot of this type of content every week in our weekly email. So thank you once again. Good luck on your journey and enjoy College Savings Month.